Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score!
Ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Washed it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey, a margarita, and a Bloody Mary. And I said, Stone Cold, why have one when you can have them both?
Swung in and drilled! Deep right center! Away back! Gone for Tony!
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up.
It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Awful.
How is she awful?
Hates freedom.
And now, Any Given Podcast with your hosts, Brendan Ward and Ethan Simpson.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup! Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection!
Hello and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Any Given Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ethan Simpson.
And I'm Brendan Ward. Welcome on in, like he said, back to Any Given Podcast. We're going to go ahead and get right on into it. Everyone's favorite Twitter philanthropist, or whatever the hell you want to call him. He owns half of America at this point, it seems. Elon Musk decided over the last week or so that he was going to take a shot at buying Twitter.com. Well, it became official today that that Twitter did accept his bid of $44 billion. Everyone's saying it's a win for free speech because that's kind of what he wanted. No censoring what people say. But my biggest thing with this is Twitter's always been this free app. You go, you rant, you say what you need to say. How much is Twitter going to change? We both love Twitter. I think it's my favorite app. I think it's your favorite app as well, at least in terms of social media. Facebook and Instagram I could really do away with. But Twitter for sure is something that I'm on all the time. How do you think he's really going to change Twitter?
Well, what I think is he's going to bring back the wild, wild west aspect of Twitter that everybody loves. That the reason why everybody went on there is because Twitter was like the wild, wild west. You didn't have to have a burner account to say what you wanted to say. I mean, obviously, burner accounts are good in certain aspects. If you want to keep some opinions you have locked away that you don't want people knowing you have and put them on the internet, that's just fine. Or for your career, whatnot. But for the most part, Twitter is just for having fun, joking around. That's what I take it. Or getting some information. That's about it. For the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, maybe not 10, I'd say around 5 years, Twitter has been kind of, up in the air with what you can say, who can have accounts, who is censored on there, and who can't have an account. And it's just kind of, politics aside, whatever, doesn't matter if it's a politician, a comedian, an actor, sports athlete. It's just, they were making it so it was a safe space, and let me tell you what, the internet is not a safe space. Because right now, as we are talking, I am getting completely roasted online because Super 70 Sports posted, what's your favorite all-time sports moment? And I posted the Rajay Davis home run from Game 7 of the 2016 World Series.
Yeah.
And I have all these Cub fans in my mentions yapping at me. Oh, imagine your favorite sports moment is a game you lost, and oh, how'd that work out? And oh, classic Cleveland, blah blah blah. Yeah, shut up, you yuppies, and go back to Wrigleyville. I'm talking about your, as in my, favorite sports moment, not the game, just the sports moment. How electric that home run was. That's what I meant. That was it. That moment in time was absolutely insane. The city of Cleveland was going bonkers when that happened. So That's what Twitter's all about. People are there to troll you and be no name, no faced people who have a dog as their profile picture or a picture of Rodney Dangerfield or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what Twitter it's a wild west of the internet, and it's supposed to be a fun place. So I think Elon Musk hopefully brings it back to its glory where you can essentially do whatever you want. Obviously, you have to have guidelines, but yeah, just have fun with it. It's Twitter. Who gives a rat's ass?
Uh, exactly, and I think, like you said, it's been so much of this. We can't say what we want on Twitter, and now, like you said, the wild wild west aspect of it is gonna just be so fun. It's back. It's taking almost, like you said, us back to middle school or high school, or you know, maybe even a little bit when we first like were in, like when my freshman year in college, where it didn't matter. Like you said, these Cubs fans are coming at you for being happy about a Rajay Davis home run that, like you said, might have been the most electric moment in Cleveland sports history. And sure, the Cavs won a title that same year, so there were other electric moments, but for in a game 7, end of the game, near the end of the game, to for Rajay Davis to hit that home run, it was something that, like, I was listening to it on the radio and almost crashed my car when it happened. So, but like you
Yeah,
said, that free speech thing, let them come at you, because that's what Twitter is about. Be, you're taking an hour break from them, but as soon as we're done with this show, you can go back all you want and talk shit to every single one of them.
absolutely.
I just
And you know what? I haven't been chirping just because I was saving it to talk about it on the podcast. So once I get this out of my system, then I'm just gonna hop back on Twitter and be like, hey, guess what? Screw you. This was an awesome moment. You know how electric it was? There was a show at the Kent stage. We had the big screen out on the bar at the corner, not the
yeah,
corner at the stadium, but the corner of the bar at the Kent stage. Most of the show, most of the husbands were out watching the game. The game ends. Everybody's out there, including crew members and band members, watching the end of the game. Obviously, it did not end the way we wanted it to, but it was still an electric moment. For me, that was my favorite sports moment, was when he hit that home run to tie it up with with Brandon Guyer on second base. Awesome. Bottom of the 8th, bringing hope back. It was an awesome moment. And people are like, oh, loser, classic Cleveland, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Go watch the Bears. Go keep living in the past of Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
right.
Where's Jimmy Butler at? Where's Derrick Rose at? Get the hell out of my face.
Chicago is a just trash city, but we don't have to get into that. Would you pay for Twitter?
I paid $0.00.
But would you?
Oh, would I?
There's a lot of people that think Elon is gonna introduce like a paywall, almost like a subscription service to Twitter, and so monthly, would you pay for Twitter?
I'd pay for the Any Given Podcast Twitter. I think we would go, throw on it and then use that. I don't know if I would make I mean, I probably would end up, if it was like, I don't know, $1 a month. Yeah, I'd pay that.
Yeah, I think honestly, up to like $2.99, $3.99 maybe a month is where you could probably get me to invest in Twitter, just because it's, like I said, probably my favorite app, and it's really the only social media that I'd say I visit daily. I can go a couple days without visiting Instagram, Facebook for sure, because the only thing I do on there is podcast stuff, and like, for my personal one at least, podcast stuff, and then my like older generation of family, my dad and grandpa and grandma and all of them. So Facebook isn't something that's, well, it's part of my everyday life because of my job, but personally, not really. You know what I'm saying? So, but Twitter really is. I tweet. I don't tweet a lot, but on average, probably once a day, a couple times a week. But but this is a sports podcast. So let's get into some sports. Uh this is I'm calling this the most, of course that happened, bizarre story of 2022. And the reason I say that, because if you told me even 3 years ago that this headline was going to make a headline on Twitter or any type of news story, I'd have told you you're I don't want to be mean, but you probably got some sort of cuckoo-ness going on in your brain. Johnny Manziel is back at it in the football world, making his season debut with the FCFL. If you don't know what that is, that's the Fan-Controlled Football League. Uh, they normally air on Twitch, so it's a little different viewing process. Josh Gordon played in it last year. Manziel played in it last year. Marshawn Lynch owns a team. Richard Sherman owns a team. It's kind of just like a fun league. It's not in competition with anything. So, but he throws that he immediately comes in for his season debut. I believe it's like week 2 or week 3 in their season. First play, touchdown, Terrell Owens. Yes, Terrell Owens caught a touchdown pass from Johnny Manziel over the weekend. That's just bizarre to say in 2022.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, but at the same time, you got to think about it. If it's not a high intensity league like a USFL, obviously the NFL, who Terrell Owens, I mean, was a superstar in, or like the Canadian Football League, one of those. It's one of these, it's more kind of laid back. Don't get me wrong, these are still world class athletes out there performing. But at the same time, Terrell Owens stays in shape. If you follow him on social media, you see that he stays working out and all that, just like Ocho Cinco. Ocho Cinco was playing Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was MLS, but he was on a professional soccer team. These guys are staying in shape. They're going to be in shape the rest of their lives. I'm pretty sure Jerry Rice could compete in this league.
Yeah. Well, Josh Gordon came in last year and kind of dominated for a little while and hadn't played in the NFL for a couple years at that point. Like, I know he was on the Patriots, but he wasn't really effective. Or the Seahawks right before that as well, but he wasn't really effective. In fact, Kansas City last year was probably the most effective he's been for at least 4 or 5 years since probably the Browns cut him after the last incident that he had. So when he steps in out of real, like, full season work and dominated that league, like you said, I believe, honestly, I think Ocho Cinco is probably healthy enough to play in the NFL. He's not going to be super effective. You don't want him as your number one option, a third option, a fourth option on a team. Ocho Cinco could contribute to a team that, like a Tampa Bay, that already has those big time receivers on the outside and just needs to add somebody, kind of like Green Bay did with Randall Cobb last year. But obviously, Ocho Cinco's better than Randall Cobb ever was. I'm of the ilk that Ocho Cinco stepped away too early, anyways.
Yeah.
He didn't play as long as I thought he was gonna. So for I just I call it bizarre, but it doesn't surprise me because this league is more about the fun and the production of the league, maybe rather than the product of football on the field. Johnny Manziel's getting a shot just because of his name and the fact that he's gonna bring crazy. Win or lose, we booze on the Zappers. That was his first quote last year in an interview. So Johnny Manziel finally found the football league that allows him to be himself. The Fan Controlled Football League. And that's really all I have on that. Moving on to kind of NASCAR. Denny Hamlin, little under fire. Sends out a tweet apparently, gets himself into some hot water. What's the news centered around Denny Hamlin after this weekend in NASCAR?
Yeah, Denny Hamlin sent out a tweet after a incident that happened on the track with his good friend Kyle Larson, and he posted a video where, you know what, instead of me explaining, do you think we can just toss it up here in the center?
Yeah, we could go ahead and throw it up. So here's the video.
How much signal I need to cut across 8 lanes? None? I turn now. Good luck, everybody else.
All right, as you can see, that video is clearly a clip from the cartoon television series Family Guy, which is on Fox, which that race aired on Fox. And so Denny Hamlin, as you can see, made a comparison to the person in that cartoon clip to Kyle Larson's thoughts on the track. Now, people online are saying that's extremely insensitive, racist, etc., because one, it's the stereotype that Asians and women are bad drivers, and also Kyle Larson is Asian American. But the reason Denny Hamlin said, and he apologized, and he deleted the tweet, and he has to go through mandatory sensitivity training through NASCAR. But he apologized, and he said what he put it out there because his buddy Kyle Larson thinks like that on the track and will cut off other drivers. That was it. It was supposed to be an innocent meme that somebody made, and he thought it was funny and posted it. There was nothing else that was supposed to come of it. So, as I said, he has to go to the sensitivity training through NASCAR, and he's taking all this heat because of this post he made.
Yeah.
Now, the person who is being paid and making how many millions of dollars for Fox, that created that cartoon, that voiced that cartoon, that clip, that thought of it and wrote it.
Yeah.
Where is he online to come to Denny Hamlin's, be like, hey, I made that. He wasn't referencing it. I was the one who made that joke.
Yeah.
Where is he? He's nowhere to be found.
This is a clip that's been out for years and kind of got away with it. I agree with you there. By the way, don't knock that sensitivity training. Kyle Larson went through that same sensitivity training 2 years ago. He's winning races left and right now.
Yeah, I'm not.
So that sensitivity training might work because Kyle Larson's been on a tear unlike any other last year and a half.
Absolutely, and I'm not knocking the sensitivity training. I get it. That's NASCAR and their PR guys trying to cover their own asses. Yeah. I totally understand what NASCAR is doing. This is just the fact that it's coming through. Most of the races are on Fox.
Yeah.
Fox has Family Guy. Family Guy, that's a clip from Family Guy. Creator Seth MacFarlane hasn't said anything, hasn't even made a comment defending Denny Hamlin or making a statement on that. And that's not the first time that Seth MacFarlane and Family Guy have gotten people in trouble. And that's not the first time they've made jokes like that on their television show. Hell, one of their top supporting characters is an old perverted man that creeps on children. I have no problem with Family Guy. I'm just saying, Seth MacFarlane, where are you, man? You should step up and say something and make a statement, at least in defense of Denny Hamlin, saying, that he used my joke because the person was a bad driver crossing lanes or something. He just needs to do something in defense of Denny Hamlin, because I'm going to sound like a broken record here. That's his cartoon. That came from him and his writing staff. They created it. Somebody else made the meme, but just put it online. It just irritates me that he's not, he's nowhere to be found. He's tweeting about politics online and all this dumb BS that makes no sense. There's no connection to his career. He can make these jokes where he badmouths politicians and celebrities, but if you say to a certain type of celebrity or politician that maybe he agrees with, then that's too much for a show. I don't know. All around, I do have a little problem with Seth MacFarlane being a hypocrite. That's probably what irked me the most here in this situation.
I agree with you, but it's like this entire situation is the epitome of this kind of pansy ass culture that we have, where we pick and choose who to yell at almost. Like you said, Denny Hamlin, sure, he sent his tweet, and it probably is a very bad look. No matter if he sent this to his best friend or not, like you said, there's the stereotype on Asians and women all in one. But if you watch the clips, like you said, if you watch the clips side by side, where you show what Larson did in that race next to what even happened in that video. In the video, you show the car going completely from the left side of the highway all the way to the exit ramp, followed by the video of what happened with Larson in that race. He goes from completely to the inside to completely to the outside, where cars behind him are 4 wide, basically cutting them all off. And that's what Hamlin was referring to. But like you said, these guys picked on who they wanted to pick on. They went and they picked on this guy in Denny Hamlin, when in all reality, like you said, he's just sharing content that's been out there forever. And still, I could pull up Hulu right now that has Family Guy and probably find the clip and watch it within a couple minutes, as long as I know which episode it's on, because it's still on there. They haven't taken it off. They might take it off now that it's getting some heat with Denny Hamlin and NASCAR's got the following to do so. But we keep picking and choosing these things that get these athletes in trouble, when all they did was, like you said, share something that they saw on the internet that like you said, in reality, he probably was like, oh, my buddy's gonna get a kick out of this, and he shared it, and now he's in trouble, going to sensitivity training. Who knows, maybe he'll win a NASCAR Cup now that he went through sensitivity training. Certainly led to that from Kyle Larson.
Yeah, and let me just add this one last thing before we go on to the next subject. Now, Denny Hamlin is one of the top NASCAR drivers in NASCAR, correct?
I would say,
Brendan?
at least in terms of like professionalism and his tenure there, yeah.
He owns a NASCAR team, does he not?
Yeah.
Who does he own that NASCAR team with?
I believe it is Larson, right?
No, it's Michael Jordan.
Oh, it's Michael Jordan. Duh.
Who was the first driver that they signed?
Bubba
Wallace.
Yeah.
We've talked on this podcast what happened with Bubba Wallace. We very strongly voiced our opinions on what happened to him 2 years ago.
Yeah. Support, opinion, all of it.
And how we supported him, and how the hate that he was getting was disgusting, right?
Yeah.
So not only is Denny Hamlin creating a NASCAR team with Michael Jordan, arguably one of the greatest, you can argue the greatest basketball player ever, or LeBron. That's a different story for a different time.
Yeah, we don't.
But he creates this. Yeah, I did. That's just a whole dumb thing that's been going on for way too long. But here's the thing: he created this NASCAR team with Michael Jordan, who's one of his close friends, and they brought in Bubba Wallace as their first driver. They created this big team powerhouse with them and DoorDash and McDonald's as the sponsors. They created this giant powerhouse like NASCAR has never seen before.
Well, like they do that, and it opens the door for he is one of the few that are responsible for opening the door for more minorities in NASCAR. like you said, he creates this super team with Michael Jordan, and they sign Bubba Wallace, who just so happens to be the only African American driver in NASCAR currently. And then that opens up even more opportunities for Brad Doherty's racing team. And then it opens up Alvin Kamara now owns a racing team.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's only opened up the door for more minorities in NASCAR, which, like you said 2 years ago, we talked about how it needs to happen. If NASCAR is gonna move forward, it has to happen. It's the NBA when it was dying out in the 80s. It had to grow. NASCAR has to grow. And unfortunately, people are going at the one guy who I would say has been responsible for helping it grow, like you said, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. I get that the video is a bad look, but go after the person, like you said, that created it, because he's the one that deserves the hate for it. I personally don't have a problem with Seth MacFarlane. Kind of like him. I got Stewie tattooed on my leg, so I can't really say anything. But he probably deserves the hate for the video.
Look, I enjoy Seth MacFarlane. I've enjoyed Family Guy like my whole life,
Yeah.
just like most people.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: if he's seeing somebody getting that flack for something that he created, he should step in and say something. That's all I'm trying to say. But he's too busy tweeting about politics and all this dumb shit.
It's human.
Instead of trying to help this other guy, who is, it's not just a random racer. What he's doing to help evolve NASCAR and grow NASCAR, and he's getting flack for joking with his buddy and the guy that made it. That's it. I know I sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that. I know we went way too long.
Yeah, shoot. I did not expect us to take that long for those first couple topics, but that's all right, because I mean, the playoffs, which we'll get into now, are kind of just going through this first round. And in the first round, there's so many teams playing. It's hard to get into kind of every single game. You've got Phoenix and New Orleans, the 1 and the 8 in the West, going back and forth. They play tonight, Tuesday night. Yeah, it's Tuesday. Tuesday night in Game 5. New Orleans, not many people expected to make this not many people expected the Pelicans to make this a series with Phoenix, who went to the finals last year. They have Brandon Ingram's played well, and things have worked out. Another game that is going to happen tonight: Memphis and Minnesota over in the West, tied 2-2. Minnesota has been having some troubles holding on to some leads. Really, in terms of some of the leads that they've blown, they should have won this series 4-0. The other night, they ended up leading by 25 two separate times and blew both leads to lose a game to the Grizzlies. Golden State and Denver, I kind of figured this is how this would go. Golden State currently leads 3-1. Game 5 Wednesday night. May close it out. I know Jokic was in there for MVP, but without Jamal Murray, that Denver Nuggets team is just not as good as it can be. Golden State is kind of at their peak right now. Jordan Poole is playing very well. Klay Thompson getting back into his own. Draymond Green is who Draymond Green is, and Steph Curry, we'll see if he can play in clutch games if they make the conference finals or finals. Dallas and Utah going back and forth. Luka finally made his return in Game 4. Game 5 in Game 5 last night. I actually didn't catch who won that. Do you know who won Mavs Jazz last night?
Wow. I think we both dropped the ball there.
Yeah, I missed that one. That's on me. I'll pull it up. But while I'm pulling that up, any of these series stick out for you in the West as kind of must watch television currently, just because of kind of what's happening in that series?
Yeah, definitely Pelicans Suns, that one, because everybody was like, all right, the Suns are just gonna slide through their easy breezy Astro glide right through there. But the Pelicans, they're playing some hardball. They're not rolling over quite yet.
Well, that team is just, they're young too. And I know everyone keeps saying Brandon Ingram's young. He's been in the league quite a while. I think he's a superstar, like you said, playing very well, making that a series. By the way, Dallas won by 25 last night, 102-77, to take a 3-2 series lead in that series. One of those things where last night I watched that Nets Celtics game, and then at that point I was like, you know what, bedtime, and completely forgot to check the score of that. I wrote it. I wrote in here, it's Monday night. Make sure you check it before showtime, and I guess I just never did. That's on me. So over in the East though, Miami, I do know, before we got on tonight, ended up closing out that series, sending the Atlanta Hawks home. So that would be the second series that closed, because the number 2 seed in the Boston Celtics end up bouncing the super team Brooklyn Nets in a sweep 4-0. So the East has 2 series now that are closed, while the West are just over there beating each other up. Milwaukee currently leads Chicago 3-1. Game 5 is Wednesday night. Philadelphia, Toronto. Philadelphia currently leads 3-2. Game 6 is Friday or Thursday night. Philadelphia ended up winning last night's Game 5. I did check that one. So kind of in the East, what I have is obviously the Brooklyn Nets, who everybody for the last 2 years, this is actually the 3rd year that they've been together. Since Kevin Durant left Golden State, everyone keeps telling me these Brooklyn Nets are going to be the team to beat, finals bound, they're going to win a ring, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. They haven't made it past the second round.
Yeah, it's you put too many star players on one team.
It's not that, man, because before he left Golden State, there was 4 stars on that team, and even if we hate him, 4 Hall of Famers on that team, and it worked. So the thing I'm gonna say is, I can't call KD one of the best basketball players in the world, because he hasn't done a darn thing outside of a super team. Sure, he went to the finals with OKC when he was younger. West was a little weaker. End up getting bounced by LeBron's Heat pretty easily. Then he couldn't do it again with Oklahoma City. Goes to what is arguably one of the greatest teams ever constructed. They won 73-9 and then lost to the Cavs. Then they add KD. They kind of win two easy ones. And then injuries riddled them when the Toronto Raptors beat them in that 3rd year. It's hard to win an NBA title. I understand that. But the reason Kevin Durant left is to prove he can do it. Maybe not on his own because he went with Kyrie Irving, but kind of on his own with his own team. He was heavily scrutinized for joining the Golden State Warriors, and now 3 years later, removed from that team, the Golden State Warriors look like they're headed back to the NBA Finals. The Brooklyn Nets got swept in the first round.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. I agree with what you're saying about Kevin Durant. Everybody says he's the greatest basketball player on the planet. He's better than LeBron. Ba 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 da da da. Yeah, right. Keep believing whatever you want, man. Kevin Durant, he's played with, like you said, 3 just dumb stacked teams. OKC, the Warriors, and now the Nets. Couldn't do it in OKC. So he went, as you brought up, he went to Golden State, won it there, and then acted like he was, it was just because of him Then he goes to the Nets. They bring in all those guys. They get Harden. They get Blake. They get Kyrie. They have him. They already have Joe Harris. They brought in DeAndre Jordan and stuff, and they just can't do it. I don't know what to say besides. I think that there's just too much star power on that team, and I know Golden State was a stacked team, but Golden State was already established before he showed up.
Yeah.
When he was with OKC and the Supersonics, those guys all came around the same time. There was no previously established hierarchy in that organization.
They were growing together.
Yeah. So when he goes to Golden State, that hierarchy is already there. It's the big three. It's Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And then you have your second tier players. You got your Iguodala. You have all those guys, right?
Yeah.
You have Barnes. You have Bogut for a second there.
Livingston tore us up for a
Livingston.
while.
Yeah. You have all those guys, right? And then then he leaves with Kyrie and all those guys to go to the Nets. And it's just like they don't know what to do because you just pulled a bunch of guys except for Kyrie.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess Harden when he was at OKC, but except for Kyrie that haven't played with superstars, these guys are all superstars thrown together already with their egos. And they're all just trying to butt heads for who's number one. Nobody knows who number one is because nobody's really number one on that team.
And
that was an extremely long explanation for something very simple. My apologies there.
No. Because I'm going to add to it. Because you brought up the hierarchy in terms of the players on Golden State. I think the one glaring difference for me is not about the players. Because like you said, they're stars all over in Brooklyn. There's not a leader of that team. The reason Golden State was already set up because they had the three players, but they also had Steve Kerr leading that team. There's a structured offense in that team. And sure, Steve Nash is the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, but Kyrie Irving said something the other night that kind of threw me off and made me think that they don't really have a leader. When's the last time you heard a player say something like, I and management have to get together and see how we could build this team? First of all, what player ever sits down? I mean, people say LeBron does all the time, but no GM has ever said LeBron was in GM meetings with them. They're not gonna. Kyrie Irving straight up in his press conference the other day said that him, Kevin, and the GM and the owner are going to sit down and see how they can build this team. Who's running the Brooklyn Nets? Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, or Joe Tsai and Steve Nash?
I can go in on who's running that team and how wild that is, but that's a different topic for a different day.
Yeah, because it is, because I've got one more thing about kind of the Nets, and then I want to get into Kevin Durant today on social media.
Okay.
The thing I want to talk about is Nick Wright. You know who Nick Wright is. I don't like taking stuff from him a lot because he's like up LeBron's ass. And I like LeBron, but this guy is like brown nosing him more. That is the biggest brown noser I've ever met.
Savannah wasn't even that up in his ass.
Yeah. So but last night after Brooklyn lost, he tweets this. Game 1, Brooklyn up 5 with 4 minutes left. Game 2, it's a tie game with 8 minutes left. Game 3, 5-point game, 8 minutes left, Boston leads. Game 4, minute and a half left, 1-point game. Boston wins all 4 in a sweep. If only the Nets had a closer. Kyrie Irving told us it was the first time in his career he thought that he was standing on the court with another guy that could make a clutch shot. Neither of them did in all 4 games against the Boston Celtics this year. And it got Kevin Durant in his feelings because people started going after him, one being Charles Barkley, who basically said that Kevin Durant built a super team and still can't do anything with it. And he was ring chasing. Kevin Durant decided to respond this morning with pictures of Barkley when he went to Houston and played with Hakeem Olajuwon and Scottie Pippen. In what people would say was probably Barkley chasing a ring. Whatever. Barkley, one of the greatest of all time, one of the best basketball players of all time. Honestly, probably not top 5, maybe top 10, top 15. He didn't win one. Well, why not go chase one with Hakeem and Scottie towards the end of their career? Scottie was trying to prove he was number one. Barkley needed a ring. Hakeem was getting older. So he did that. Then he goes on Twitter where this guy named Rob Perez at Worldwide Wob on Twitter says that he did this in the morning and it's going to give Inside the NBA enough time to be able to put stuff together and trash him. Kevin Durant decided to tweet an army of producers versus the God. Just a typical Tuesday. The guy who just got swept called himself a god. A god.
Yeah.
He's tweeting stuff that he should have been tweeting from his burner account on his main account. Just wild.
Yeah. That's just even more. That's more gasoline on the fire right there. So there's going to be memes and whatnot and pictures and Photoshop pictures that they're going to make. They always do. And they do the little GIFs too that they make. That's going to be funny. They're going to roast out Kevin Durant because why not? They can. Because is Kevin Durant going to be in the NBA Hall of Fame? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Barkley's already there.
Yeah.
So Barkley can sit there and roast him no matter what. Barkley is no longer on the court. He no longer has to prove himself to anybody.
Yeah.
Did he go chasing rings? Yeah. But did he ever catch the rings? No. So Durant should have just shut up and zipped it and done what LeBron does and just not go on there, or just gotten on a plane and flown to Mexico or something.
Yeah. And I don't want to call him soft because whatever. If people are talking shit about you, you could talk shit back. I don't really care. But I'm definitely going to start calling sweeps in the NBA playoffs going God mode.
There you go.
It's got to happen. People need to hold people accountable. And if you're going to create these teams, they have to be successful. The reason we're not sitting here talking about LeBron is because he's sitting at home right now. He's not playing in the playoffs. His Lakers team isn't successful. I'm not sitting here saying LeBron had a good year. Sure, he played well all year, but his team sucked. It was garbage. Worst year of LeBron's career in terms of his team. They weren't even 500. So I'm not sitting here, I'm not picking on Kevin Durant. I'm picking on bad basketball. And it shows because they're not going to fire Steve Nash. And next year, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be all these guys out here playing pickup basketball because there's not a guy out here leading the team, making plays, running a structured offense. And this is the NBA. So when it comes down to it, and you've got teams like the Boston Celtics who may not be star-studded, but they've got a very good GM in Brad Stevens who was the coach, and then he handpicked a coach that can just continue his offense. This team's been together for a couple years now, and it's showing when they're gelling on defense and making Kevin Durant, who, like you said, one of the best basketball players of all time, is struggling. And he's struggling because he's playing pickup basketball and not structured basketball like he was in Golden State, where as long as they moved the ball around, somebody was wide open and they all could shoot the three.
Yeah. And like you were saying, they've created this team. Essentially, it seems like they got together and were like, all right, we're all going to go to the Nets. Like, Kyrie, all right, you're from New Jersey. This is your team, right?
Yeah.
This has been your team your whole life. Cool. All right. It's Jay-Z's team too. We're going to, New York, concrete jungles where dreams crumble in the first round. But yeah, it just seems like they did all this and then he's locked in for 4 more years. Kevin Durant is. Ben Simmons, who we haven't even really talked about, wearing those wild ass outfits on the sidelines, waking up, he's back sore. I can't play, coach. Whatever. He's locked in for 3 years. And then you have Kyrie, who has 1 more year remaining on his contract. So who knows if they're even going to stick around for much longer than even less than a decade. Or, sorry, less than half a decade longer.
I'd say they probably have next year. And if it doesn't work, it's done. Kevin Durant will be opting out or whatever you can do to leave. Like you said, Kyrie's only got 1 more year. And who knows if Ben Simmons even ever plays again. I can't imagine a guy who didn't play all season, but like you said, wore clothes so outlandish, he was the only thing you could notice on the bench. Like he stuck out like a sore thumb and wonders why people are clowning him for not playing the entire year when people thought he was just faking an injury to get out of Philadelphia.
And see, right there, you used the key word that I was just about to bring up. He was dressed just like, so far his career has been, clown. He has acted and played like a clown his whole career. And that's how he dressed on the sidelines, and that's what people were making fun of him, saying he looked like. And you know what? Hey, if the oversized shoe fits, then by all means, Ben Simmons, wear it.
To me, I don't see in the landscape of this NBA where the 3-point ball is probably the most important thing for at least wing players and guards. How you have a guard that's made one, and he's been in the league like 6 years. That's his entire career.
Yeah.
Less than a handful. It might be more than one because I don't follow Ben Simmons every single game, but I know it's not 10. He has not made 10 total threes in his entire career in the NBA. In a league where Steph Curry every single year makes 400 to 500. And I know he's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time, but that's nuts.
Yeah, how are you going to be a guard and can't shoot a three, bro? It makes sense for players like Shaq and those big guys, your big guys out there that can't shoot for shit because guess what? They're just there to be big and guard the paint. They're not supposed to be hitting threes like that.
Well, even most big guys now have to shoot the three.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, even back then with guys like Shaq and them, guards are supposed to be able to hit the three, and that's just one of the most mind-blowing statistics. And he's got to be the worst shooting point guard in NBA history, or shooting guard, whatever the hell he is, wherever they put him. I know what he is. He's a bench guard because he's guarding the bench.
Right. But we're going to go ahead and move on from basketball because we're already almost completed the show in terms of time. We're going to quickly go through over the weekend, Cleveland Guardians play the Yankees. The reason we bring it up is Yankee fans the belligerent drunks and assholes they can be, decided that they were going to try to get a reaction out of Myles Straw, specifically after cheering on the injury of outfielder Stephen Kwan, who we don't even need to get into on how well he was playing before his injury. They then proceed to throw stuff on the field. Myles Straw jumps on the fence, gets into the one guy's face. Thankfully, Oscar Mercado was able to pull him away from the situation before it escalated. But you know it's bad when even the organization that is the New York Yankees tells their fan, goes out and helps stop their fans. It was that bad.
Yeah, and much respect to Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. Does he go by Mike or Giancarlos now? He changes his name every year, but just good on those guys for going out there.
Yeah.
You know, to the leaders of the team, to the faces, to go out there, and they were even like looking directly at the faces of these guys, like right in their face, like, "Hey, stop!" Like they came running out with their hands up, like, "Stop this man!" As Oscar wanted to go out there and fight, as you have heard from his post-game interview.
Yeah.
Myles was getting ready to fight. He jumped up and climbed up the fence. I mean, it was just ridiculous. They both have said, "Look, you can say whatever you want about me." Myles Straw said, "You can say whatever you want about me, my family, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "I know it's just chirping." Same with Oscar Mercado. Said, "I know it's just chirping. Sometimes they even turn around and laugh, and whatnot." He's like, "But when it comes to cheering about a player's injury, that's where they, yeah, and they're throwing trash on him and beer on him, and they were throwing it into the bullpen throughout the game. Bullpen throughout the game, and it was just ridiculous. As a lot of people have said, those fans should be banned from the stadium. It's not like they didn't get a good look at them.
Yeah.
How many cameras are in Yankee Stadium that are pointed right there? And I mean,
you know exactly who that guy is in that video. You just
Yeah.
gotta look for him. It's clear as day. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but all I gotta say about it is, I know that they seem like they're these other beings, celebrities and athletes sometimes can, but they're humans too.
right. And I totally agree.
And it's just, you can't, like, you can't cheer on the injury of another human, the injury of anything really. Like, you can out of passion and being upset, I guess, but don't expect to not get yelled at, or not get called out, or not just have that reaction from that other person. You could say it all you want. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But don't, as a fan, expect the player not to react, because they've got passion too.
Yeah, and I called it about 2 or 3 weeks before the Super Bowl. I said Odell Beckham Jr. is going to tear his ACL,
And he did.
and he did. And I said he's going to try and go too hard on that leg that he had, because I could tell that he had been, nursing it, taking it easy on that leg the whole season. Like, he's going to try and go hard and he's trying to win MVP.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I was like, he's going to tear his ACL. And as soon as it happened, of course, I was like, oh, holy hell, I called that. And so I was like tweeting out, like, ligament, whatever the hell the ACL is, you got it, and stuff like that. But that was, spur of the moment. Obviously, Odell Beckham and the Cleveland Browns had their own issues that we don't know about, that barely came to light, whatever. But I wasn't actually being serious and happy. It was just a troll. It was a troll thing. And I wouldn't have said that to his face if I was that close to him. I wouldn't have thrown beer on him or something. Like, if that happened, I saw it, I'd be like, oh, damn, dude, that sucks. Like, 2 back to back, not good. I wouldn't be throwing beer on him. So there's the difference between just being a troll douche online
Yeah.
and being an actual asshole.
That's what
in
I was going
person.
to say. People need to realize that some of them tweets coming from at ETH Simpson CGOD are just troll tweets and just being for reaction almost being a dick, sometimes. So and I could do it too, and sometimes it's fun. I like arguing with people on Twitter and stuff. Even if I know I'm wrong, it's just fun.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments on Twitter was when I called Derek Carr trash. And Derek Carr is probably a top 15 quarterback in the league, but I called him trash, and then I did like a hashtag Raiders. And Raiders Nation is pretty passionate. It was fun. It was fun just going off on these people about how trash Derek Carr was, even though they were throwing facts at me, and it was just it's a good time. But now that we're talking about football, another team that is kind of going through it, the San Francisco 49ers. If you watched any 49ers football last year, you know the name Deebo Samuel because he was everywhere. He was a running back, he was a wide receiver. I think they had him throw the ball a couple of times. He pretty much carried that team all the way to that NFC Championship game before they met Matthew Stafford in the Los Angeles Rams. Well, he no longer wants to play in San Francisco. San Francisco and their front office says that they aren't moving on from Deebo. They'd like to pay him and keep him in San Francisco, but Deebo's pretty adamant. Even over the weekend, a video comes out where they're at a party and this lady's holding up a sign, Deebo is staying, hashtag 49ers. And then the cameraman does this pan over to Deebo with a bottle of champagne in the back, and he goes, nope, not staying. So he wants out, and pretty bad. And so my question is Deebo worth top wide receiver money, or was it a 1-year flash in the pan?
Yeah, I think he's jumping out too early. He had that good season, and he's like, "Yo, I deserve I deserve Odell Cash. I deserve Jefferson Cash. I deserve I could go on with any of those guys. I deserve Hopkins Cash." It's like, no, dude, you had one good season. A lot of people have one good season, and guess what? It doesn't happen again. Like I've said multiple times, big contract, big big contract, bad luck. Like, look at how many people the Cleveland Browns have signed like that because of one good season.
But do you think it's smart on his end though? And by that I mean this could be the highest value Deebo ever has. So many times, like you said, in the NFL, we see these guys get paid off of what we've seen most recently. And most recently, Deebo carried a team with trash running back play. Nobody Brandon Ayuk's pretty good, but nobody else at wide receiver. George Kittle having a not so great season, and Jimmy Garoppolo is not setting the world on fire. He took that team on his back all the way to the NFC Championship game. So most recently, that's what people have seen for Deebo. So do you think him forcing his way out is his way of cashing in on just this year, because this could potentially be the highest value he'll ever be able to capture? If he doesn't have the same season next year, it's over.
I don't think it's necessarily over. What he's doing is moderate risk, high reward. And by moderate risk, I'm saying he's doing this. He's telling the team that drafted him pretty much, I don't want to be with you guys. I'm looking elsewhere for this big contract, right? Moderate risk because no matter what, he's going to get a contract, even if it doesn't work out. high reward for him is he's going to get a dumb contract, right?
Yeah.
The high reward is he's the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL or something like that, you know.
Well,
the moderate risk, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He gets a dumb contract. The moderate risk is, okay, he doesn't have a good season, but he's going to bounce around the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay. At worst, I'm going to bounce around teams. At best, I'm going to get paid dumb NFL fuck you money.
Yeah. And that's why I can understand where Deebo's at with this. And the problem I see, and it's the same situation I feel with Tyreek Hill. Who's going to use Deebo like Kyle Shanahan used Deebo? Can Miami use Tyreek Hill like Andy Reid used Tyreek Hill? I don't think so. Name another place that could use Deebo like San Francisco did. I just don't know where.
Yeah, having him play at a few different positions on the field, switching it up like that. He was looking at one of the biggest names that comes up, obviously, is Cleveland. Cleveland needs a wide receiver, needs some wide receivers in their roster. So Cleveland comes up there, but are you gonna use like a wildcat type scheme?
He doesn't fit in Cleveland.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
how would he fit into it wouldn't, there's really no way like Cleveland would make that work. So unless your team can adapt to a wildcat, like maybe Baltimore could do something like that, but there's not that many teams that are looking at, not that many teams still use the wildcat as much as they did in like 08.
I'll give you Baltimore because I could see it there. In Cleveland, he would become a traditional wide receiver. Because you're not gonna take Deebo from the slot and do an end around with him. Do that with Kareem Hunt. He's the better ball carrier.
Mm.
You're not gonna hand it to Deebo out of the backfield. You got two of the best two top 10 running backs in the league already.
Yeah.
If you're gonna run a reverse, shouldn't you run it with one of the fastest guys in the NFL, and Anthony Schwartz, who you spent a 3rd-round draft pick on?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see where he fits in Cleveland. I agree. Cleveland needs a receiver to solidify that core, even though I think Peoples-Jones is going to continue to grow, and I really like the addition of Amari Cooper. We'll get into Cleveland in just a moment. But Deebo's highest value is in San Francisco because he'll get used again like he did this year. But I understand why he's trying to leave, because this could be his highest value ever, and he wants to cash in. That's just one of the storylines this week in what is one of my favorite weeks in the NFL, draft week. We're recording this on Tuesday, so that's only 2 days away from the NFL draft. Real quick, who goes number 1?
I'm taking number 97 from Michigan, Mr. Aiden. It's just for going to a team that's already worked so much and spent so much on their offense, establishing their offense the past how many years have they tried to make it work?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to start building on the defense, right? You've already got your franchise quarterback, or what you think is going to be your franchise quarterback. You've already got your receivers. Now it's time you can't just be one side of the ball heavy. You know, you got to even it out.
Yeah. I agree with you that they go defense. I think it's Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon, though.
Okay.
I think that if he would have finished the year last year, he would have solidified himself as the number 1 guy no matter what. The reason it could be Aiden Hutchinson, like you said, is because of how he finished the year last year. Dominating against Ohio State, leading Michigan to the playoffs. Sure, they didn't do shit when they got there, but he still did that. So I agree that I wouldn't be surprised if 97 gets called as number 1. The only other place I could see them going is possibly offensive line, but I don't think there's one in this draft that is a number 1 guy. There's some starters in this draft, but there's not a guy you should draft at number 1. So I think they go pass rusher. You say Hutchinson, I think Thibodeau. Who's the first quarterback off the board?
Kenny Pickett is who I'm seeing going off. The first quarterback going off the board.
I agree because I think he will be, but I don't think he's going to end up being better than Malik Willis. If I had to, and I know this isn't the greatest quarterback draft, so if I, and I'm going to steal your boy, if I had to say to me the 2 most successful quarterbacks that come out of this draft, I'm going to just say it, are going to be Malik Willis and Dustin Crum. And it's unfortunate that not many people are going to give Crum the respect he deserves, and he might go late in day 3 or even undrafted. But some team's going to be lucky that they gave him a shot.
Absolutely. And I'm going to transition into the final topic of the podcast, and that is Dustin Crum. He's probably my favorite prospect out of this entire draft, only because of that Mac mentality. I could see him being like the next Ben Roethlisberger, coming out of the Mac, coming out of a smaller school.
Yeah.
Obviously Ben was put up there way higher, first round pick, but I like that they're not talking about Dustin Crum as much, even though he showed out at the combine, even though his numbers don't lie when it comes to Kent State football and what he did at Kent State. So you know what? Just keep pushing him down lower and lower and lower, and let's see how he comes out. Because let's see, what happened to a quarterback that they just kept pushing down in the draft and overlooked and said he was not in shape enough and wasn't going to be a star player, wasn't first round material, wasn't second round material, wasn't third round material, wasn't. Oh, you mean Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to ever play in the NFL? Now, I'm not saying that Dustin Crum will be anything like Tom Brady. I'm just saying I like the feel that Crum's getting. It's like the Tom Brady type feel.
To be fair, there's never been anything like Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, that's just a fact. I'm just saying
I know what you're saying. There you go. Real quickly, Brown stuff for the draft. They have a handful of picks. I'll just read them off real quick. In round 2, I'll give you my favorite prospect real quick. My favorite prospect is Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati.
Okay.
Because I like his name. Because I like his name, man. And dude never gave up a touchdown in college, and he said, I don't plan to in the NFL. And I think you just need swagger, that kind of swagger. So he's one of my favorite prospects. Dustin obviously is probably my favorite one, but I'm not going to take yours. And that's just because I've stood 5 feet from Dustin. But to the Browns picks, their first pick in the draft is not going to be until round 2, pick 44. Then they have 2 in the 3rd round, pick 78 and pick 99. Pick 99 is a compensatory selection that they received from the NFL after Minnesota hired Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah as their general manager. He was helping out in the Browns front office last year. Then they have 1 in round 4, pick 118. And then they don't have a 5th round pick, but they do have a 6th round pick 202 that they got from Dallas. The reason they don't have a 5th and their own 6th round pick That's because that's what they sent for Amari Cooper to Dallas. And then in the 7th round, they have 223 and 246. So not many picks for the Browns in this year's draft. It's really kind of probably going to be a little boring of a first round for Cleveland fans, just because not only do they not have a first round pick in the draft, they don't have a ton of picks. And to get back in the first round, you have to start throwing picks out. And they don't have a lot of ammunition, especially considering this is the first of 3 years in a row they're not going to have first round picks. But that's the price you pay to have Deshaun Watson as your quarterback. With that, what are the Browns' biggest needs? Or go ahead.
Okay. I'll answer. Look here. I'll answer the question, and then I'll give you my draft scenario, and then I'll let you, or I'll answer, then you answer, and then go into the picks.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. Obviously, number one, wide receiver. The Browns need wide receivers. They're not getting Jarvis Landry back. Not going to pick up Odell. Nothing's going there. They made a couple moves. Are they going to pick up Will Fuller? Who knows? They just keep beating around the bush talking about it.
What about Deshaun Jackson?
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson. That is also, he listed the Browns as one of the teams he would like to go to. Yes, with the addition of Amari Cooper, that definitely takes away from the blow of losing Odell Beckham Jr. Well, they didn't really lose and they released him. Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry and Rashad Higgins.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely wide receiver, defensive line. They need to fill in a couple holes there. Obviously, a defensive tackle. We talked about on the podcast possibly bringing back Sheldon Richardson.
Yeah.
Some different scenarios there. Obviously, offensive line. Can never have too many offensive linemen, especially with the knees those guys have and are always going down. You need to have just a million dudes on that roster. Next man up, I mean, one of the greatest franchises in sports history. That is their motto. And then finally, what I think what they should do with these late round picks, at least one of them, is keep building on that secondary. Bring in a cornerback, bring in a safety. Why not? Yeah, I don't trust the secondary that Cleveland has, and that's just a fact, and I probably never will. I have so much trust issues with that secondary.
Well, it's hard when you can go through all of them. Denzel Ward's pretty solid, but earlier in his career, very injury prone. Greedy Williams, injury prone. Greg Newsome, very good last year, but had some injuries. Grant Delpit, pretty decent last year, but coming off the Achilles tear. Ronnie Harrison, a cheap guy that shows some flashes, but not that great. Richard LeCount, who they drafted last year from Georgia, flashes, but not that great. I agree with you. You can't trust that secondary. Unfortunately, I agree with you on all these picks. I really wanted to argue with him, but you're right. Honestly, the Browns have, 8 picks? And every single one of them should either be wide receiver, either offensive or defensive line, and a late round secondary player. Exactly. Those are the holes.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the holes. Those are Cleveland's holes. They're there. They're glaring. It's like in Madden when you're playing franchise and it says team needs. The only 3 that would pop up for the Cleveland Browns this year: quarterback, OL, DL, safety, corner, hybrid, nickelback. Just extra secondary depth. Losing MJ Stewart, I think, is going to be a big deal.
Absolutely. And I mean, they don't have any sexy picks, right? So they don't need any sexy. Oh, I get wide receiver. Wide receiver is like the sexiest they can go. And by sexy, I mean the most flashy, the one everybody wants, the supermodel girlfriend. That's a quarterback or wide receiver.
There might only be 2 or 3 top tier wide receivers. You might only get 1 or 2 Jamar Chases this year. But this wide receiver draft is so deep. Even if they don't go wide receiver at 44, I'm confident you can get a good wide receiver at 78 or even 99. That's how deep the wide receivers are here. You'll be okay if there's a premier defensive end or defensive tackle to go ahead and take them at 44. I don't know if you should go secondary at 44.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to be there at 44, why wouldn't they be there at 78?
I agree because there's probably only a handful of top tier secondary guys as well. And they'll all probably go mid to late first round. And you won't have a chance at them at 44. Then again, I've seen crazier things happen. I did watch Greedy Williams get picked in the second round the year they didn't have a first round pick because of the OBJ trade. Speaking of trades, will the Browns trade Baker Mayfield before Thursday, during Thursday's draft, or immediately after next week?
So that's what I was going to get into. So one of two things are going to happen Thursday, the second the clock starts. Baker Mayfield and the 44th pick and or the 78th pick are either going to go to Carolina or Seattle for that number 6 pick from Carolina or the number 9 from Seattle.
You think they can get that high?
For Baker Mayfield, the second round pick and a third round pick?
You think they can get that high?
Do you? I mean, you're getting the number 1 overall pick, a former number 1 overall pick. You're getting a second round pick, a decent second round pick. Do you think they would add more on there?
I think the only way that happens is if whoever Carolina wanted at quarterback, Detroit took it too.
I mean, but is Detroit going to do that while they have?
That's my point. That's my point. I don't know if it can happen because I think the first quarterback off the board is Carolina's if they want it at 6. Now, Seattle's a different story. They might be able to get to 9 trading Baker Mayfield, especially if Carolina takes the quarterback that Seattle wanted. But I would say that to get up to 6 or 9, you probably have to go Baker, 44, 78, and probably 118. You might get away with only giving away 202.
Okay, I could see adding on another pick. What I was just saying is 6 or 9. Nice, either 6 or 9. One of those two. They're definitely going to. Baker's definitely gone Thursday.
Okay, so say this happens. For who?
Oh, they're definitely picking up Garrett Wilson.
You think they go all in?
Or Chris Olave.
What? Okay,
one of the two OSU guys.
Either one, you know what I'm saying, but that's all in.
I think Chris Olave over Garrett Wilson because Garrett Wilson needs a little more time. Needs a little more time to get adjusted to the NFL. Get down some route running a little more. So I think the Browns would probably favor more Chris Olave than Garrett Wilson.
I like both of them. I think Garrett Wilson is probably going to be the better overall wide receiver. He may need the time, but I think Chris Olave
Olave, same
yeah.
thing.
I think he fits the Browns more because Chris Olave, if you watched him at Ohio State, was the guy that took the top off the defense. That's what the Browns need.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper will route people to death on the outside, on the inside, and across the middle. Donovan Peoples-Jones will too. You get a guy that could be a burner that could take the top off the defense and make sure that he has to be covered 40 yards down the field. If you're going to move up to 9, go ahead and take him.
Yeah.
But that's all in. That's you got to win a Super Bowl if you do that. It's a failure if they don't win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years if they move up to top 10 this year.
That's why I said one of two scenarios, and all of them, either of them, I guess I can't really say all of them if there's two, either of them both have to deal with Baker Mayfield and the top 2 or 3 picks for the Browns in this draft.
I
Because
hope it happens, really, because it'd be exciting.
who would you rather spend your 6th overall or your 9th overall pick on a quarterback that you don't know if they can successfully adjust to the NFL, or would you rather go with a safe bet, bring in Baker, who you know you've seen play, who has gotten the surgery, who is not going to be playing injured for you? You just have to see some tape of him out there throwing the ball and talk to some doctors and see how he's progressing in his healing. I would much rather do that. That's the safer route than drafting a player who turns out to be another bust, maybe even a Ryan Leaf, Johnny Manziel situation.
I agree with you because there is not a surefire quarterback in this draft. We like Dustin Crum, but we do also know he'll need development.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not going to step in and be a Super Bowl winning quarterback his first year. I think he could eventually with development. Malik Willis, same thing. Development. Kenny Pickett, who everyone thinks is number 1. Development. Matt Corral, who everyone thought was going to be number 1. Ended up sucking for Ole Miss this year for the most part. Gonna need development. There's not a surefire quarterback. Baker Mayfield. Now he's had 2 bad years out of 4, but he's also had 2 good years out of 4.
Right.
And he's shown,
broke Peyton.
Yeah, broke the record like you said. He's shown, I believe, when healthy and when not led by an idiot, he can be a pretty good NFL quarterback. So it does kind of make sense. And I know that there's been the report that Carolina doesn't plan to trade for him before the draft. But when you're on the clock, it's time to make a decision.
Right.
And if they don't, Seattle's in the same situation. Trade for Baker, start a rookie this year, or start Geno Smith.
Yeah. The second that the pick is in for the Panthers and there's no talk about a trade being made, when the pick is in,
yeah,
you already know that Seattle has just gotten Baker Mayfield.
Kind of, right? I can possibly see that.
You can almost guarantee it. You could put, if these were Vegas odds, if I was in Vegas, I would probably put money on that. That the second it says pick is in, there was no trade made, Baker Mayfield has just been traded to Seattle.
The only thing I think that could take it away is if Carolina picks the quarterback that Seattle didn't want. And Seattle thinks they're going to get the guy that they wanted. But like you said, do you want to start Baker Mayfield, a developmental quarterback, or Drew Lock? For Carolina, Baker Mayfield, or a developmental quarterback, or Sam Darnold, who is kind of pretty much proven, he's not an NFL quarterback. Jets didn't work out. Carolina didn't work out. Sam Darnold's nearing the end of at least being a starting quarterback.
Yeah, Sam Darnold would probably be a great USFL quarterback.
Well, I think Dwayne will get him in the XFL.
Hey, XFL too. Why not? He has that douchey mono look to him.
He does for sure. But that's all I got in terms of what we have written down here. I know you probably have something for this day in sports history for me. So go ahead and get rocking on that, and then we'll kind of go with our super long episode this week.
Alrighty, let me get this out. My apologies. I did not have this 100% prepared. It'll just take 2 seconds here.
Absolutely unacceptable. How dare you not pay attention to something like I was supposed to write down that Maverick score. How dare you not have this?
I know, dropping the ball. It's Mercury in retrograde or something.
Maybe we both fell asleep at inopportune times today, so
Yeah, that is true. All right, so this day in sports history, April 25th, 1985.
uh-huh.
After much uh, after much controversy, University of Miami quarterback Bernie Kosar, Youngstown's own Bernie Kosar, announces he will forego his final 2 years of college at the University of Miami, Florida, that is.
Yeah, the U.
And he will enter the NFL supplemental draft, becoming the Cleveland Browns quarterback to be his hometown hero that he is. And I dropped the ball too. I have that Bernie Kosar signed a mini helmet, and I was telling myself the whole time to bring it down and hold it up, and I didn't.
Sorry, we get.
I dropped the ball there, but yeah, I mean, you saw how that worked out. Pretty good.
Give me a picture. We'll use it as the thumbnail for this video.
Okay.
But that's a hell of a this day in sports history, considering I think we could agree that Bernie Kosar is probably the most beloved quarterback in Cleveland Browns history. And you know the history of Cleveland Browns quarterbacks.
Yes, absolutely. And real fast, that was brought to you by at TDI Sports Clips, not Sports Clips the Hair. That's who made the tweet and put it out. And I read word for word what they said. That was at TDI Sports Clips. First time ever using them to get a this day in sports history. But I decided to throw that out there. I'm not trying to have anybody.
That's probably what TDI stands for, right?
This day in.
Yeah, so this day in sports clips.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Yeah, cool. Where can they follow you, Ethan?
You can follow me on twitter.com at ETHSimpson, CGOD. You can follow me on Instagram at ETHSimpson. You can follow my main man, Brendan, at...
On Twitter at BWardCLE until Elon Musk makes me pay for it. On Instagram at B.Ward52. Facebook.com// Brendan Ward. I don't know why I started that. You can go ahead and follow the podcast on Twitter at Podcast Given. On Instagram at Any Given Podcast. Facebook.com// Any Given Podcast. Do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube. It's up there in the right-hand corner. Or, no, that's left. Right-hand corner. So above where Ethan's head will probably be in the video. Just hit the subscribe button. It's fun. You'll get notifications when we have new episodes. I promise you, we're just getting better and better each week. So you're going to want to tune in because we're going to take this thing to the moon like we're Cameron Grimes. Ethan don't get that reference. Maybe some WWE people will. Or maybe he does. He did look at me a little crazy. But
I thought you said Elon and Grimes. So
no, Cameron Grimes is a wrestler, and he does stocks. One of his he talks about stocks. So yeah, to the moon. I was just making a joke, but thank you guys for tuning in to this week's Any Given Podcast. We got an extra long one for you this week. we just kind of got into it and it got a little fun and spent a little extra time with you guys this week. Not really a problem. Always good talking to each other for as long as we can. Thank you for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.
God bless. Stay blessed. See you next week.